Hey guys, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a recommendation video. New adult romance is one of my favorite genres. If you're not really sure what that is, new adult is a genre that has characters from the ages of 18 to 24. And since I'm 21 years old, I kind of fall right into the middle of that. And so lately I've just been reading a lot of new adult romance, but I also find that in this genre, there's a ton of shitty books. Today, I'm going to recommend to you some of my favorite new adult romance books. I've been wanting to do a video like this for a while now, but I didn't think I'd read enough of it, but now I realize I have read a ton of new adult, and I want to recommend you guys some books, so let's get right to it. The first books that I'm going to recommend to you might seem pretty obvious because it's Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover is kind of like the queen of new adult romance, so of course I'm going to be recommending her books. Every single one of her books is incredible. Let's confess, this book is about a painter who paints people's anonymous confessions. Like, they submit anonymous confessions to him and he paints them, and then it's about this girl. Her first love died, basically. It's really good, really intense, and full of romance. Next one I'll recommend is Maybe Someday. Follows a guy named Reid who is a deaf musician. A really cute and beautiful love story, and there's a lot of like music involved in this book. And then we have November 9 by Colleen Hoover, and this book follows Ben and Fallon, and Ben is he wants to be a writer, and this couple meets on November 9th in Los Angeles, and they decide to meet every single year on November 9th for the next 5 years, but without having any contact in between those days. So it's really interesting because obviously, like, as readers, we only get to see their lives on this one day every 5 years. It's so cool, and it's unlike any other kind of romance I've ever read before. I friggin' loved it. Next one will be Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and this book follows Miles Archer, who's a pilot, and Tate, who is her brother is best friends with Miles. This book is a lot more sad than a lot of Colleen's other books. Like, this one has an emotional punch and will get you right in the feels, but it's so good, and it's definitely one of my favorite books from Colleen. And the last Colleen Hoover recommendation I have is her latest book, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and this book follows this girl named Lily who lives in Boston. She is dating this neurosurgeon named Rowell. We get to see flashbacks of this boy that she used to love in her past named Atlas, and it's just deals with a lot more serious topics, and it's definitely for a more mature audience. This book is just really important, and it's so special to me, and I absolutely love it. I highly recommend this one. If you're gonna give any of Colleen Hoover's books a chance, definitely pick up this one. The next one I have to recommend to you today is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino, and if you've been watching my channel at all, you know that this book was my favorite book of 2015. I just absolutely loved it. It's about characters named Matt and Grace, and Matt wants to become a photographer for National Geographic, and Grace wants to be a celloist, and so they're both going to college, and the whole book is very atmospheric of New York, which I love because I love New York. And this book takes place, like, it shows their flashbacks of when they were in college and falling in love with each other for the first time, and then they suddenly see each other again on a subway in New York, and they like don't get a second to talk to each other before the subway like takes off, and then he's like trying to like track her down in New York, and it's like kind of like The Notebook but like a modern day version. Beautiful, I love it. I forced my sister to read it and she liked it too, and it's just so good. I also kind of wanted to recommend Renee Carlino's newest book, Swear on This Life, and this one I didn't like as much as Before We Were Strangers, but I still think it's worth mentioning because I still did enjoy this book a lot. And this book follows a girl who is reading a book by a new super popular like author, and she realizes that the author was her first love and that he's written this story about their lives. Like, the story in his book is their story of when they were younger, and it's like really awesome. Like, I love this concept of like a story within a story, and that she's like reading a book that her first love wrote himself. Like, I just thought it was really cool. I actually enjoyed the story within the story better than the actual book itself, but I still think it's worth a read. Next book I want to recommend is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this book is one of my new favorite new adult books. It's so amazing. It follows this girl named Emma who marries her high school sweetheart named Jesse. A day before their 1-year anniversary of marriage, Jesse dies in this like freak helicopter accident, and she's obviously devastated. And 4 years pass by, and she meets this boy named Sam. Sam is actually this boy that she went to high school with that had a crush on her as well, and so they finally get engaged and everything seems super happy, and then she gets a phone call saying that Jesse survived the plane crash. Now he's coming back. It's this really intense love triangle, obviously, between her, Sam, and Jesse as she's trying to figure out who's right for her, you know, because she's found happiness again with Sam. It's just such an incredible book, and it really dives into the topic of who we're supposed to be with and whether the idea of like a soulmate really exists. It's such a good book. It's so beautifully written. I cried like a baby. It's just, so good. The next two that I want to recommend are both student-teacher romance books. The first one will be Unteachable by Leah Raeder. I feel like this book is super underrated. It's so good. Macy is 18. She's a senior in high school, and then her teacher is like 32 or 33, I want to say. They meet at this carnival, and obviously he doesn't know that she's a student, but it's so good. It's honestly, like, I still consider it one of my favorite new adult books. It's my favorite student-teacher romance book, and I don't know why, I just really like romances like this that are really forbidden. It's definitely very intense, very provocative. I love this book. It's written so beautifully, like, it gives me chills. Right, and the next student-teacher romance book I have to recommend is Loving Mr. Daniels by Brittainy C. Cherry. This one is definitely a more G-rated version of Unteachable. This book definitely has a lot more emotional content than Unteachable does. Like, Unteachable is just a really fun, erotic, provocative, intense student-teacher relationship that's like really fun and lyrical and beautiful. And this one is like emotional as shit. Like, it's beautiful. It's so good. The main girl, Ashlyn, loses her twin sister, Gabby. Like, her sister dies. Mr. Daniels is like a musician. There's actually not that big of an age gap here. I'm pretty sure she's 18. I think he's like 22. But this one is so beautiful. It's written so well, and Brittainy C. Cherry is an incredible writer. And the next one I want to recommend is also by Brittainy C. Cherry, and that is The Air He Breathes by Brittainy C. Cherry. And this one is also about two characters who are dealing with great loss, who find each other when they're broken, and it's just like a really beautiful, inspiring love story. The next book I have to recommend is Come to Me Quietly by Elle Jackson. This book follows a girl named Allie and a guy named Jared. They kind of like knew each other their whole lives because Jared's best friend is Allie's brother. Jared's coming back to the town that they were raised in, and Allie's still roommates with her brother, and so Jared needs to like stay with them while he's finding a place. She's not the little girl that he remembered. Yeah, basically it's just really cute, and I highly recommend that one. Next one I have to recommend is Fade In by Mabie. This one follows a girl named Tatum who is living in New York City, and she's a comedy writer for a TV show, which I thought was super cool. She decides she needs to hire an assistant to live in with her because she's slowly losing her eyesight. She's gonna become blind within like a few months. And so as she's like losing her eyesight, she thinks she needs an assistant to help her like live her day-to-day life as she's slowly losing her vision. And so she hires this guy named Ben Harris, and then they start to kind of like obviously fall in love with each other, and it's so cute. As her vision fades out, a world of love and happiness just might fade in. Next book I'm going to recommend is He Will Be My Ruin by K.A. Tucker, and this book is actually more of a like thriller too. So it follows this girl who her best friend commits suicide, then she gets the suspicion that like her best friend didn't kill herself, so she wants to like dive deeper into her past to figure out what was going on, and while that's going on she kind of gets involved with the building Super Grady, and I found Grady really adorable and so cute. And then there's also kind of this love triangle that takes place with this guy from her best friend's past named Jace, and it was just really intense, and I highly recommend it, especially if you love new adult romance with just a hint of like a thriller, like something else going on in the story. So the next books that I'm going to recommend are more erotic new adult romance novels, so these ones are definitely for readers that are like 18 plus. Those books will be Sweet Filthy Boy by Christina Lauren and Wicked Sexy Liar by Christina Lauren. These two books are a part of the Wild Seasons series, and so far there's 4 books in this series. This book is the first one, and this one is the 4th one. I don't own books 2 and 3 because I didn't care for for them that much, but these two books were definitely my favorites in the series. This book follows a guy named Ansel and a girl named Mia, and they meet in Vegas and have like a one-night thing, obviously, and then he asks her to spend the summer with him in France. And I know it sounds like totally cheesy and like one of those like new adult books, but whew, this one was so good, and it was just written so well. Like there was so much comedy, like it was so provocative but like really good, and I just loved it. I loved all these characters, and all the characters in this series are all like friends with each other, so it's really cool because you still get to see characters from this book in the later books. And this book follows a guy named Luke, who also happens to be Mia's first love. And it follows this girl named London, who is a bartender and a surfer. She's just like really cool. She's one of my favorite females ever in new adult romance. She's just so badass and doesn't give a shit. Luke is basically like this fuckboy who doesn't want to settle down to like obviously fall for London. So cute. This book is written so well. There's so much humor that I like died, and obviously because I tabbed this thing like crazy, it's just, oh, it's so good, so refreshing. I love this book. Highly recommend it. The next one that I want to recommend is The Deal by Elle Kennedy, the first book in a series in the Off-Campus series, and so far I've read 3 books from the Off-Campus series and I've liked them all, but The Deal is definitely still my favorite. This book follows a hockey player named Garrett. It follows this girl named Hannah, who is a rape victim, and that's not a spoiler or anything, it mentions it on the very first page. She's been crushing on this guy named Justin forever, and he's like a total jock, right? So she helps Garrett study to like keep him on the hockey team and stuff. And while they're studying, Garrett finds himself like starting to fall for Hannah, but Hannah's like, if I help you study, then I can use you to like make Justin jealous so that he'll finally like notice me. So it's like really funny because Garrett's kind of being used, and he knows he's being used, but he's also kind of like falling for Hannah at the same time, and it's just so cute. And I love like they binge watch Breaking Bad together, and they're just like so relatable and so cool. I really love both of their characters. They're so like mature and different from other new adult characters that are usually so like cliche and ridiculous. Like they are so real, and the way they fall for each other is so like raw and natural and just beautiful. They didn't even know it was happening, and it was so beautiful. Oh my god, this is one of my favorite. Next one I'm gonna recommend is an LGBT new adult romance that follows 2 guys, and that's Him by Sarina, Bowen, and Elle Kennedy. This is also Elle Kennedy, the same author of The Deal. This one also follows 2 hockey players that are both guys. Wes and Jamie went to hockey camp together when they were growing up. It's been a few years since they've seen each other, and now they're gonna be rivaling off in a game against each other. And so it's like super intense, but oh my god, this book is so good. Like, it's probably one of my favorite male romances that I've ever read. I just adore Wes and Jamie so much, especially Jamie. He's just like so cute, and he's from California, and he's so kind-hearted and positive and like open-minded, and he's just so refreshing. Like I love his character so much. If you're looking for a really solid LGBT new adult romance, then I highly recommend this one. And the last few books I have to recommend today are technically adult books, but they kind of read like new adult books, so I figured I would recommend them anyway. First one I have is Attachments by Rowell. The characters in this book are technically like 28, they're like closer to 30, but this does read like a new adult book in my opinion, so I want to recommend it anyways. And this one takes place in the late 90s, follows Lincoln and Beth, and so Lincoln is monitoring emails for this company to like make sure that nothing inappropriate is going on and all that, and he starts to like fall in love with this girl named Beth through her emails to her best friend, and it's just like the cutest thing I've ever read. It's so cute. Alright, and the last one I'm gonna recommend is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Yes, technically the characters of this book are like 29, close to 30, but again, this one does read like a new adult, and Taylor Jenkins Reid is also the author of One True Loves, and so her writing is just amazing, and I love her books, so I want to recommend this one too. This book follows this girl named Hannah at this party. She runs into her first love, Ethan, and so she has to decide whether or not she wants to go back home with her friend Gabby or stay out with Ethan. And then the book simultaneously plays out both decisions, and we get to see how Hannah's life would be different based off of which decision she made. So this one is not as much of a romance as all of these other books, but I wanted to mention this anyway because I think this is an incredible book that everyone should read. It's so cool. It's just like the way it dives into the idea of fate and what we have control over and what we don't, and what, like, some things are just inevitably gonna happen to us no matter what. It's just so thought-provoking and beautiful, and there is amazing romance in this book and amazing friendship, ideas about life, and everything about this book is so beautiful. Those are all of the books that I'm gonna recommend to you today. I know that was a lot, it was overwhelming. I want to know, what are your guys' favorite new adult romance books? If you have any recommendations for me, then please let me know. I would love to hear your recommendations. I want to know, like, if you think I should do more videos like this in the future. Like, I do read a ton of new adult romance, so I think a video like this every once in a while would be really fun for me once I have new recommendations for you guys. And I want to know if maybe I should do this for, like, other genres, like my favorite books and recommendations from certain genres. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.